So I think the whole concept of community is creating something more than just the training itself. So I think that the training itself, and I guess that means like the level of the coaching, the facility, and the programming, I guess, if you can kind of call that training, that is still 100% one of the most important things when it comes to setting up a gym. For anyone to really commit to something long term for the general population, there needs to be something more than that, because everyone wavers between high motivation and low motivation, and I guess it's times of low motivation that they need that something extra that pulls them back to the gym every time, and that's where we see the importance of community.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Fitness Founders Podcast. I'm Kevin Mannion, VP Marketing here at Glofox. This week I chat to Ed Haynes, the founder of Coastal Fitness Performance Training in Hong Kong. In this episode, we talk about the challenges of setting up a studio in a major city, tailoring group training to different types of members, and building a business around human relationships. Let's get started. Ed Haynes, welcome to the show.
Good to be here, Kev.
Great to have you, Ed. So let's get started. You've got a fitness business in Hong Kong now, but prior to that, you had a career as a rugby professional. Do you want to maybe tell me about that career first and what led you into the fitness business?
Yeah, certainly. So I guess growing up in Hong Kong, as kids who played rugby, we idolized the Hong Kong Sevens, which a lot of people know of around the world. Really big, massive tournament, one of the biggest ones on the Seventh Circuit. And that was kind of the catalyst for me as a kid, playing lots of sports that was my dream, to represent the Hong Kong national team and play in front of that stadium in front of 40,000 people. So I kind of had that as a bit of a driver on the back burner. Played rugby through school, got asked to join the national team as a 17-year-old. Very not ready for that whatsoever, but it was a great experience and nice to know I was kind of given a taste of you could potentially get this goal that you've been working for all these years. And then, went to university in the UK and came back to Hong Kong, fully committed to pursuing the career as a rugby player. And the contracts at the time in Hong Kong were actually offering full-time contracts. So kind of I had timing on my side, plus graduating from uni at the perfect time and having all this drive and ambition. So signed on with the national team as a part of the Sports Institute for a good part of 3 to 4 years. But, we were talking before about what kind of got me into S&C and strength conditioning was I was just a really broken athlete. Made a lot of poor choices in my early days of strength conditioning. I think it's harsh to blame it on a certain coach, but I just didn't have probably the guidance that was necessary for a 16, 17-year-old walking into the gym for the first time. Ended up with 4 or 5 years of really bad luck and some pretty major surgeries on the body. And I think every time rehabilitating and coming back from that, I was spending more and more time in the gym, working with physios and our strength coach, more so than I was actually spending on the field. And I just got really interested in that whole process and the whole journey of rehabilitation and strengthening and becoming physically and mentally more able. And then I think very slowly but surely that started to take over as my passion. I also had a bit of a thought as to what stage 2 would be. So if this professional career didn't work out, or at the end of the day, what would I then want to pursue next? And I've always had a passion for coaching. I've always had a passion for strength conditioning and working with people. So, it just kind of made sense to pursue this industry. And so actually, almost at the same time as starting as a professional rugby player, I actually set up Coastal Fitness, which was kind of like a passion project that was on the side to actually being a professional rugby player. And then, over those first few years as a player, I realized that actually this was actually my passion. I was spending more and more time working with clients and building the business and, enjoying the rugby side of things less and less. And then I got to 25 years old, 26 years old, and made the decision to stop rugby altogether and go full-time with Coastal Fitness.
Okay, so you had Coastal Fitness running on the side while you were playing rugby, so you were maybe able to, educate yourself along the way and ease into becoming a business owner while you continued to play, and I suppose went through those struggles.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think those are the struggles that many business owners go through now. I just happen to have, it was rugby and a business, but rugby was also, it was very demanding on the body. It was always a really early morning training session in the gym, and then, an afternoon training session that might be skill or speed based, and then nighttime training sessions that usually finish around 9:30, 10 o'clock. And so squeezing in running a business and training clients between all those hours I made the classic business owner mistake of just burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
And 1 year into that journey, I was just a zombie. I didn't have any energy or motivation to push rugby anymore. Just, I was getting to trainings and not wanting to be there. But similarly, I had all this drive and passion to run this business, but I just had nothing left. And sleep quality was awful. I was getting sick every week, and more and more injuries were actually starting to sprout up. So it just happened to be rugby that was the thing that was tipping me over the edge. But yeah.
And was it a difficult, I know there was injuries involved, but was it still a difficult decision to go full time into business? Were there certain fears you had before you made that leap?
You know what? Not really. I think I fought the temptation to stop playing rugby for about a year. Kind of my last year playing, I'd already kind of checked out mentally, but I was convinced by the coaching team to sign on for another year. And actually, I reluctantly said yes and regretted that decision the entire season. So by the end of that last season, I was very much come to terms with the fact that I was done with it.
Ready to go.
There was certainly elements that I knew I'd miss. Like I played team sports my entire life. The camaraderie of having, the boys with you all the time and having that friendship group that's different from everything else in life. That was definitely something I was going to miss. But the whole competitive side of rugby, I was actually able to replace with CrossFit. So I transitioned pretty much within the same year into competitive CrossFit, which, rugby had given me the prerequisites to be a half decent CrossFitter. So I was quite fortunate in that regard. I basically moved from one sport to another and was able to fulfill that competitive void pretty much straight away.
Got it. And what stage was the business at when you quit the rugby career and focused down on it? So what stage was it at compared to where it is today?
We're going to have our 10th year anniversary this year. We've had a physical facility this is now our 6th year. So really the first 4 years of business was essentially a freelance business. So, myself, and by this point, transitioning out of rugby, I had a team of 3 other coaches. We would essentially, drive around in our cars to outdoor spaces, personal training studios, people's houses. We were buzzing all over Hong Kong all day, every day, working with all the schools, going to businesses and offices. And essentially that was a core business for 4 years. It was actually a great business model because overheads were low. We didn't have to worry about rent or any of the things that we have to worry about now. And it was really just driven by passion more than anything else. We had a team of 4 people who loved what they were doing, loved working with people. And, 3 of those 4 are still there today. And that's kind of where we were at. And I guess one of the goals when retiring from rugby was to then be able to put my resources towards opening up our first facility. And that then happened in the next 12 months after stopping.
And what initially those customers you had, were they people you had from through sports, or were they, say, more ordinary people, beginners, or what was that initial customer base?
We were really fortunate, and I think this is why we were able to be quite successful from the start with fairly shoddy business practices. Is because I think at the time in that first 4 years we were doing a lot of primarily personal training, one-on-one coaching. We were doing some remote coaching, so we're basically doing online programming for people mainly around Hong Kong, but a few overseas as well. And we basically started group training primarily outdoors. And the group training sessions that we would run, we were running these every day, sometimes twice a day. And by that point, the point before we moved into our first facility, we had almost 300 clients training with Coastal Fitness on a weekly basis. So whilst we didn't have a physical headquarters, we did have 300 people that week in, week out were training with us. So when we opened up the gym, we were able to transition into that right away.
And for those who don't know, what would you say is, obviously costs are high for rent and that, but what else is unique about the Hong Kong fitness market in general?
Well, I think the first thing you said there, is without a doubt the most challenging thing when it comes to running a business in Hong Kong. I've been fortunate enough to be able to travel around the world and speak to other business owners, and it's always just curiosity. I have to ask what they're paying for their rental space, and when you compare what we pay here, it's just incomparable. You have such a huge dent in your bottom line every month just from rental and management fees. It really makes it a challenging business model because you're pressed to make money from day one. and you have this huge burden with these crazy costs. So I really can't emphasize the importance of understanding how this country, this landscape, Hong Kong, and other big cities like this around the world just makes this business really, really challenging.
Do you mind me asking, is it harder to make money out of personal training or group training, or?
Actually, our return on investment is much better from group training.
Really?
Yeah. Again, it's all relative. I think, the prices that we charge for personal training and group coaching and group memberships here, relatively speaking to the rest of the world in our comparative industry, is pretty high.
Okay.
But earnings here are, for most individuals who train with us, are also higher compared to most of the world as well. But I think going back to that whole statement about making money and what people earn is that comparatively, because the living expenses are so high here, we need to pay our trainers fairly generously as well if they're going to actually make a living from this place. So the actual return on investment per hour of personal training isn't that great. If you go with the typical model of like a 60-40 or a 50-50 split based on what a personal trainer takes from their hour and what the company takes, you actually earn a lot more from a group program.
Mm-hmm. You do group, you do personal training. I think a lot of this is like strength training. And in general, I think, fitness is becoming more and more for everybody and the ordinary person. But at the same time, strength training is getting bigger and bigger as well. How do you make it less intimidating for somebody to get into strength training?
Yeah, I think a bit of background on kind of what we offer in terms of our service offering. So, with regards to personal training and individualized coaching, it is 100% catered to the individual. So you may have a powerlifter come in who wants to pursue the sport of powerlifter or weightlifting. But, the majority of our clients who are doing individual coaching with us are kind of just like your everyday Mr. and Mrs. Joneses who are looking to, look good naked, be fitter and healthier, play with their grandkids in the future. That really is a core business of most of our individual clients. And I guess sprinkled in there, you have a lot of people who are very competitive with their sports. We have some athletes who are at the real top of their game in their respective sports as well. When we talk about our group program, so our group program, we actually call our strength conditioning program.
Okay.
We are a CrossFit affiliated gym, and we have representation of what the big CrossFit competitions around the world. And certainly within Asia, we have a reputation of probably a business who's churning out good athletes and has a solid program for both group and individual clients to follow. So, we've actually I think this is probably a whole other rabbit hole we could go down, but, we've broken away from calling ourselves strictly a CrossFit gym. So we do associate more with strength conditioning. So our group classes is called our strength conditioning program. And 100%, I'm going to completely agree with you there. It is very intimidating for most people strolling into the gym for the first time, perhaps without knowing really what their goals are, but just wanting to be fitter and healthier and stronger. So one of the things that we've done with our group program is that rather than having just one group program for everyone to follow, which is a very typical kind of group training model, you set out one workout for the day and people either scale up or scale down appropriate to their ability levels. So we've actually kind of broken away from that model, and rather than scaling up, scaling down, we've actually created 3 different programs within our group program. So you can kind of think of them like 3 different tracks. And track 1 we call the fitness program, track 2 we call the performance program, and track 3 we call the competitors program. Okay. So the performance in our competitors program are really for people who are actually 100% invested in the sport of CrossFit. So their goals are just like someone would play American football. They have their own set of pads and helmets, and they crash into pads every day, and then they're accepting the risk of the training of the sport because they want to be better at the sport. So really our performance and competitors program is exactly that. So people who have an interest in doing local and regional competitions, maybe the CrossFit Open, it's become their new sport that's replaced what they did before, which was perhaps rugby, trail running, marathons, that kind of stuff. So then our fitness program, which is actually our biggest group in terms of participation, is the goals of the fitness group actually have nothing to do with CrossFit. They're just general health and strength conditioning. We're looking to improve people's body composition. We want people to move better and be in less pain. And there's an emphasis on longevity, as in we want them to be doing this forever and ever and ever and ever. And I think immediately having that breakdown in terms of classification of the 3 groups it's a little bit less intimidating, primarily because you know that the stimulus of the training that you're going to be doing that day is actually geared towards you. So for most people who are beginners, who are perhaps, the people who do get intimidated, they're not having to worry about scaling down a workout or not being good enough or whatever the reason is, because they know that the training stimulus is actually catered towards the abilities of the group. And I think, the kind of stage before that is that we have a pretty thorough, we call it a fundamentals program. The fundamentals program is basically if someone has an interest in joining the group program, then we start first and foremost with an assessment. And the assessment is done one-on-one. And so we're really just basically having a look at that individual and seeing if they have the prerequisite base level of strength and really mobility, just to make sure they don't have kind of any red flags there, to actually be able to do our group program first and foremost. And if they pass that assessment, then we actually do 6 sessions one-on-one with that client to bring them up to speed on everything we think is, the minimum amount of, I guess, awareness or knowledge that someone must have before entering the group classes. And similarly, if someone wants to join the performance program or the competitors program, there's a set number of prerequisites they must be able to meet before they can actually move into that program. So really what it means is that, yes, there's a big financial commitment they have to kind of commit towards on day one. There's a time commitment, as in they have to commit to those 7 hours of one-on-one coaching before they join the group program. But what it means is that when they do enter the group program, they're really knowledgeable, they're really confident, and they're comfortable with what lies ahead, that we kind of don't have any of those issues anymore of the intimidation and the scared and the kind of worrying about the unknown that I think a lot of group training programs do have. So that I guess is kind of a very long answer to a really simple question. Sorry.
It's a good answer. I think my follow-up then is, would you say those 6 or 7 hours assessment and introduction help reduce churn and help keep people in the group training once they join? Is that what it's designed for?
Yeah, 100%. So I think, it's designed for first and foremost kind of what we just talked about. But I think it has a lot of other benefits. I think first and foremost, that the people graduating from your fundamentals program are people who've already made a fairly large commitment to be there.
Sure.
And, they've obviously agreed with our training philosophy and what we want to provide for them. And so, typically they're really the clients that you want, because they really are who we're looking for. And so, the turnover of those people is way, way less compared to, back in the day when we used to do, just a 1 hour on ramp and come on into the group class and see if you enjoy it. And, we probably have something like a 50% turnover of people dropping out in some stage. So I think, that's a huge benefit for sure. You get the right type of people who actually want to be there. I think secondly is that in terms of the level of coaching that we're then able to offer on the training floor, it's way higher. You're not having to handhold newbies coming into the class.
Sure.
You're not having to worry about the safety of people doing, like a barbell movement.
Yeah.
You have full confidence as a coach that everyone on that training floor knows exactly why they're there, what they're doing, and why they're doing it. And when you have that clarity of understanding, it really allows you as a coach to blossom in that environment and, and provide a level of service that is of a much higher standard. Yeah. I mean, I still remember back in the day, stepping onto the coaching floor and having 7 people drop skis you've never seen train before, 4 people who's their first session, and then you have this one poor person in the corner who's been there for 3 years who wants to get a great training session in, but you just can't give them that level of quality because you have the other, 9 or 10 people holding the back. And it's not the 9 or 10 people's fault. It's actually our fault for allowing them just to walk into a class like that.
Yeah. And is it a hard sell, that 6 hours, or do you have any other trial or way for people to figure out if they want to take part, or what does the sales process look like?
We're crystal clear from step one. So the moment we have that initial contact with a client, we're very honest about our systems and our processes, but we also make sure that we're explaining why. And we really try to have that to be a face-to-face or phone conversation. So we're starting that human personal relationship straight away rather than just kind of sending off a templated email. In terms of, for a lot of people who kind of not sure what they're looking for, they're perhaps just reaching out to us and wanting to understand what options we have to them. It's 100% quite a hard thing to suddenly go from, if I was to put myself in the client's shoes, hey, I'd like to find out about what you guys can do to help me. And suddenly they get a response with, hey, you're going to have to commit to 7 hours of one-on-one before you can even start the group program.
Yeah.
And it's going to cost you a lot of money, and it's going to take you some time to get there. So what we've kind of set up as like an intermediary for a lot of people is we have like a 30-minute, I hate the word high intensity, or like a HIIT class, but essentially it's a very simplified, less complex version of our S&C program.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have any prerequisites. We're not doing things like barbell movements. There's no high skill gymnastics. It's still periodized from like a strength and conditioning standpoint. So we have like more aerobic conditioning based days, and we have more strength based days, but it's 30 minutes work. Kind of tagline for that is it's efficient fitness. We're also crystal clear that it's not the best thing for you long term, but it can satisfy the needs of busy individuals who, if they weren't there, they would probably be sitting their ass in the office or at home not doing anything. So what we kind of offer to those who are kind of sitting on the fence with regards to what they want to do, we kind of do give them, this opportunity to experience one of our Coastal 30 classes, and that kind of gets them in the gym. They can see what it's about. The cool thing as well is that the Coastal 30 class is always followed up immediately by the S&C program. So a lot of our Coastal 30 folks kind of hang around.
Yeah,
they watch the S&C program. Yeah. And it's funny because we kind of initially set out for the Coastal 30 program to expect like a higher churn and higher turnover. But Coastal 30s actually end up kind of creating its own kind of tight-knit community.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you speak to people and they're like, well, look, like I'm a busy guy or a busy girl. I'm not really ever going to have the time to commit an hour and a half at my lunchtime or mornings and evenings, which is what's required for an hour's session. And like this fits perfectly for me. So actually they have no aspirations to move into the S&C program, and the Coastal 30 program is kind of like exactly what they want. Okay. But we do have a lot of people who've kind of over time, perhaps they commit to the Coastal 30 for 6 months, 9 months to a year. Yeah. You then start saying, right, well, like, okay, what next? If I want to take my fitness and my health and my strength to the next level now, like, what can you guys offer? And that's where we kind of then talk about the S&C program.
Got it. Now, you mentioned the word there, community. And I think it's a pretty popular word in fitness, but what does it mean for you, and how do you go about creating a community?
So I think the whole concept of community is creating something more than just the training itself. So I think that the training itself, and I guess that means like the level of the coaching, the facility, and the programming, I guess, if you can kind of call that training, that is still 100% one of the most important things when it comes to setting up a gym. For anyone to really commit to something long term for the general population, there needs to be something more than that, because everyone wavers between high motivation and low motivation, and I guess it's times of low motivation that they need that something extra that pulls them back to the gym every time, and that's where we see the importance of community. And so the whole community aspect for us is how we've cultivated that is, I guess, number one is just 100% transparency with everything. So we don't want the formation of cliques or special groups or people who have special privileges. Like, it's a level playing field regardless of what your job is, how much money you earn, what sport you play, how good you are at exercising. It's a level playing field, and we want to communicate that with everyone. And then I guess the next thing is obviously setting up a friendly environment in-house where people can interact and socialize. So we kind of have we call it our community area, which is a big kind of seated sofa picnic table area where people come before class and they hang out after class, and we have free coffee on for anyone who wants it, and people kind of just kick back and hang out and bond and form relationships there. We're quite active in terms of setting up events. So we try to commit to one social activity every month at the very least. And that might be a friendly in-house fitness competition, getting together for a dinner, or meeting at a bar and having a few drinks at nighttime. It's really important to us that we do have those things on our calendar and that we communicate them as effectively as possible. Those are really the biggest things in terms of what we've tried to do to strengthen our community. I think probably the most important thing there is that driving a community has to come from the business owner and the coaches who work there. I think a lot of gyms don't think that that's an important thing, and they expect a community to form just from the clients you have there. But I think if the coaches or the people leading organizations aren't actively seen to be taking part and wanting to be a part or believing in it, then it just won't work. And I can say this from experience because we've been through times where we did give precedence to like elite athletes. We didn't believe in social events ourselves as a coaching team. And, we saw like all sorts of problems kind of stem from that kind of behavior. So yeah, very much, full transparency and really believing in the importance of it.
Yeah, I think that's
walking the walk.
Yeah, I think that's good, because a lot of people might have overlooked that I suppose you as the owner, as the main coaches, being involved in being part of the community yourselves really helps to maybe make it a bit stickier.
Absolutely.
So then, social media wise, very interested. I see on your Facebook page there's tons of videos. Maybe tell me why you do them and how you do them and what sort of value they've delivered.
I've actually kind of moved away from Facebook a little bit. I've been putting a bit more love and thought into this Instagram thing at the moment.
Like everyone, yeah.
I'm definitely a little bit behind the bell curve with regards to definitely wouldn't consider myself an influencer or anything like that.
Okay.
I guess I've taken the handle Ed Haynes coach, which is a statement from the start, because I want it to be really about my professional career as a coach and everything I'm passionate about in this space. So you're not going to find anything about my personal life, not that there's much going on anyway, but it's really to do with, the business that I run and the programming and I guess the trials and tribulations that coaches and business owners go through. And really the goal there is to try and impact as many people as I can. So I guess the content that I put up there is really targeted towards, I guess, just people in the fitness space in general. And that's just like your everyday consumers who are wanting to be stronger, fitter, healthier, learn a little bit about the why and the what behind what they probably see in their gyms and their training environments. And the next is targeting probably also at business owners in the gym space as well, which is a much smaller demographic, but to kind of show that what we can do to improve our businesses. And then probably the last one is to other coaches around the world, around the region, who are interested in perhaps the more nerdy scientific side of programming and coaching and cueing and all that kind of stuff. So really that profile is a chance for me to kind of, I guess just share the knowledge that I've acquired over the years, but also I love it. I love the idea of having a platform to put my ideas out there and have them to be criticized, challenged, celebrated, and shared. Like, I'm down for all that kind of stuff. So I just think that's such an important part of growth.
Yeah.
For any individual in any profession, to not be afraid to actually put your things out there, which is, why I always say yes to public speaking opportunities, because I think it's a great challenge and it's something I want to be better at. And I also like the idea, and I have huge respect to anyone in any industry who can stand up, whether it's on a stage or it's on an Instagram or Facebook, and wholeheartedly put their ideas out there to be challenged. So that's kind of where my Instagram, I guess, has evolved.
Okay, sounds like maybe a way to, I suppose, express yourself, express what you're doing, and maybe get the feedback to learn from others in similar businesses.
Absolutely.
What would you say you're doing, say, to get people into the gym? Is that like word of mouth, or is there a strong social media aspect to that as well?
Word of mouth has definitely primarily been how we've grown our business. So I'd say it's been fairly organic. We've kind of, in the last year, hit this crossroads, I think, between probably the last 2 years, I'd say, between being a big, small business and transitioning into being a small, big business.
Yeah. So,
really professionalizing our systems, bringing in, like, we've got a really solid management and operations team now that has, taken a lot of the things that I perhaps am not as good at, but had to do for many years, like the admin side and the accounting side of things and the business operations and all that kind of stuff. So we have an awesome team now who does all that. But I think we've grown organically, and we've got to the point now where, we've just hit our very first membership cap within our gym. So we've had to, create a wait list for our group classes, which is, a good and a bad problem, obviously, to have. So now really kind of the last 6 months is where we've really been putting a little bit more thought towards being a little bit more targeted and specific with our marketing.
Yeah.
We're now at a point where, we don't really need to push our group program anymore because we're at capacity. We've just actually next Monday, we'll be opening up a brand new personal training space.
Nice. In
conjunction to our space. So that will be great because it will create more spaces for group classes and opportunities for personal training as well. So really just as of now, we're starting to really put some resources towards like a thorough online marketing strategy, an online marketing plan. and we'll be primarily going through the use of Facebook and Instagram, but being really targeted as the type of consumers we want now. We're kind of at the point now where we can be a little bit more picky and selective as to who we want. So, for example, we have those mid-morning classes in the day, which probably don't fill up as much as your peak hour classes, early morning, lunch, and evening.
Yeah.
So we can be smart and strategic with targeting that type of consumer, which in Hong Kong is kind of like your stay-at-home mums and dads who are looking after the kids. So we'll definitely be targeting those guys. Because we have a new personal training room opening up, we're definitely going to be targeting potential folks who are interested in personal training. But really, we haven't done it that much.
Yeah,
I guess it's just word of mouth, which is I guess is the best form of referral.
Yeah, well, it's nice to get to be at a stage where you really only need to invest in more profitable clients. So, say filling empty spaces or finding people that are potentially going to stay with you for longer. It's a nice position to be in.
I think just on that as well, it's definitely worth mentioning that the industry in Hong Kong, and I know it has around the world, certainly to all the places I visited, with regards to fitness, is definitely evolving and changing. I think when we first came into the kind of CrossFit strength conditioning space 6 years ago, there was only one other gym to start, and then that kind of grew to like 9 or 10 gyms, and so our direct competition was actually those kind of 9 or 10 gyms. Where that's gone now is that like you have all your big fitness chains, your Fitness First, your Pure Fitness, your California, all those big chains are now catering to the functional fitness crowd. They all have Olympic lifting platforms. They've got pull-up rigs and like gymnastic areas. So technically now they're coming into our space and people are kind of floating over towards them. You then have your kind of F45s who've now entered the market who are offering like, lower barriers to entry, slightly cheaper, but still kind of pretty efficient training that's going to get you results, perhaps more so than your Globo gyms. And then you got like your Barry's boot camps, your high intensity classes. So suddenly in this training space in Hong Kong, like our competitors is just like multiplied tenfold. And so, 100%, like we need to now step up our game to kind of make a bit more of a song and dance and bring education and awareness to what we're doing and why we're different.
How do you carve out something that's unique amid all of that?
I think the biggest thing for us is when we look at what we do compared to all these new players in the market is that our business and our service is still 100% built around human relationships. So, we don't have television screens that educate you on how to lift weights, or there's a clock on a screen that you follow and then you move to the next station. Really like I kind of consider what we do very old school in our approach to if there's a relationship that's built, whether it's in a group community or it's individually with your client. And that's like a lasting long-term relationship. And you have a coach watching you do everything all the time. And I think all these other things which are utilizing, who are very smart in how they utilize technology, and they can actually probably scale their business in a much more effective way than we can, because we still need good coaches everywhere. Exactly. I think it's funny because I've seen, and certainly in the last 2 years, with the emergence of all these new guys in the market who are offering perhaps the less personal, less human touch on fitness, there's kind of become like this dropout market now where people have invested in that in the last year or two. They've gone through, the progressions and everything they can with classes, and then they kind of come out of it being like, well, I got a lot of success and I'm really happy with what I achieved, but I want more. How can I achieve more? And they're kind of falling back to the old school method of actually investing in a human coach who can then work with you and tailor and tinker and form a relationship. And I think that's kind of where we sit. So really emphasizing, the importance of the human element when it comes to coaching, and that, and knowing that will be our core product probably forever and ever is something we're targeting.
Yeah, and I guess the main takeaway is, whatever your angle is, whether it's technology based or whether it's human based, it's probably to have one angle that you can talk about so that you can answer questions like this and people can, I suppose, decide whether that's exactly what they want. Exactly. Is kind of what you need to fend off the competition, stand out for one thing.
I'm a big believer in honing in on what the essentials are of your business and what you are really good at, and just making that your thing. We've gone through periods of time where we've just over diversified and offered too much, trying to compete with everyone in the market, and it just didn't really serve us. So now really honing in on what we really believe in, and making that our core product. And if someone doesn't want it, then we're really happy to recommend them down the road to someone who can.
That makes sense. Okay. Well, I think that's nearly all my questions. This has been a great little chat. I think I have a lot of really interesting takeaways from it. Maybe before we're finished, what's next for you and what's next for Coastal Fitness?
Coastal Fitness, obviously we're expanding our facilities currently. We're on the brink of actually having a second facility in Hong Kong right now, we're kind of in negotiations at the moment. That will kind of be on the other side of Hong Kong, almost far enough away to be another country, which is awesome. But really, it's kind of continuing to spread the word around Southeast Asia, and kind of making a name for ourselves in Asia specifically. And with that is coming, coaching seminars where we're going to work with other business owners and coaches around the region, continue to travel around with our athlete camps, which are basically catered to those who want to be competitive within a specific sport, and providing educational material there. And then, I guess just continuing to build our platforms online and offering more information and more opportunities to be a part of the Coastal Fitness family, I guess, without necessarily having to be in Hong Kong. Nice.
Okay. And then last question for people in Hong Kong or further afield, how can they get in touch with you?
Probably the best way is, personally, my Instagram account, which I put a lot of content out, is Ed_Haynes_coach. Our Instagram handle for Coastal Fitness is Coastal Fitness HK, or you can just Google search Coastal Fitness Hong Kong, and all the information will be there. Okay,
Ed, well, this has been a great conversation. I've learned a lot, so thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks, Kev, an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, all the best.
Cheers, buddy.
Thanks.